And so we begin with the subpoena from the January 6th committee ordering Donald Trump to testify under oath and provide documents.
The former president's legal team reacting overnight to the historic move.
ABC's White House correspondent Mary Alice Parks is on Capitol Hill with the latest on the potential legal battle brewing. Good morning, Mary Alice.
Eva, good morning. The January 6th committee voted unanimously last week to take this extraordinary step, and now they have done it. They wrote that the former president personally orchestrated and oversaw an entire effort to overturn the 2020 election, and now he needs to answer for that. This morning, former President Trump waking up under deadline, now formally subpoenaed by the January 6th Congressional Committee.
A subpoena to a former president is a serious and extraordinary action.
Here's what you need to know about the latest completely fabricated legal drama flooding YouTube. And this one may be the most absurd yet. Videos are spreading everywhere claiming that federal agents have issued an arrest warrant for Donald J. Trump because he supposedly refused a subpoena. Literal agents, a literal warrant, allegedly prepared to take Trump into custody for noncompliance. The headlines are outrageous. Trump refuses subpoena, arrest warrant issued. Federal agents move on Trump after subpoena defiance. It's happening. Warrant issued for Trump's arrest. The thumbnails feature FBI agents, police vehicles, and Trump looking panicked. And viewers are watching these videos thinking, oh my God, they're finally arresting him. He refused a subpoena, and now they're coming for him. But here's the reality. There is no arrest warrant. No federal agents have been dispatched to arrest Trump for refusing a subpoena. That did not happen. Not today, not yesterday, not this week. It is entirely fabricated. Pure fiction created to drive clicks from people who want to believe Trump is finally facing immediate consequences. Before we go any further, let's be honest for a moment. You can't always rely on mainstream media anymore. That's why we built Pump Politics. To deliver real stories, real context, and zero corporate spin. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines, join our free newsletter. We'll send the news straight to your inbox every day. Click the link in the description to sign up. And if you want to support what we do, join the community that actually cares about the truth. All right, let's get back to it.
Start with the next steps for the former president. Given his legal options, how likely is it that we're actually going to see him testify?
Whit, I would say it is unlikely, but not impossible. So we all know that former President Trump loves an audience, right? And the January 6th committee has been, well rated. People have really tuned in. So I am sure he will be tempted to actually respond to the subpoena by agreeing to appear and testify publicly. But at the end of the day, I think the legal risk for him is just too great. So if he's listening to the advice of his lawyers, he won't at the end of the day agree to show up and testify. Testifying opens up the possibility of perjury charges, and he is already facing a number of serious criminal investigations, including the one growing out of the Mar-a-Lago classified documents. So I don't think at the end of the day it happens, but, he may keep us in suspense about it.
Now, before you tune out thinking there's no real legal issue here, stay with me, because Donald J. Trump does, in fact, have a long and well-documented history of resisting subpoenas and fighting legal demands for testimony and records. That part is real. It's established and undisputed. Trump has challenged subpoenas for years. During the Mueller investigation, he fought congressional subpoenas. During the January 6th investigation, he resisted subpoenas. During multiple financial investigations, he opposed subpoenas seeking tax returns and business documents. That pattern exists. But refusing a subpoena and being immediately arrested for it are two entirely different things. Subpoena enforcement simply does not work that way. When someone refuses a subpoena, a lengthy legal process follows. Courts become involved. Contempt proceedings may be initiated. Criminal referrals can occur, but the process is slow, procedural, and deliberate. It unfolds over months or even years. It does not result in federal agents showing up the next day with an arrest warrant. This is what makes the fabricated narrative so frustrating. There are real consequences for refusing subpoenas. Steve Bannon refused a congressional subpoena related to January 6th and ultimately went to prison for contempt of Congress. That happened. That is factual, but it was a process. Bannon was not arrested the day he refused. The House voted to hold him in contempt. The Department of Justice chose to prosecute. A trial followed. A conviction was secured. A sentence was imposed, and only then did incarceration occur. The entire process took more than a year. So yes, refusing subpoenas can result in criminal charges and jail time, but only through a slow legal pathway, not through instant arrest. Clickbait wants you to believe Trump refused a subpoena today and federal agents are arresting him tomorrow. The reality is that even if Trump refused a subpoena today, and there is no evidence that he did, any legal consequences would take months or years to materialize, if they materialize at all. Here's another critical point. Trump is president again. He is a sitting president, and that raises massive constitutional questions about whether a sitting president can be arrested in the first place. Many legal scholars argue the answer is no, that a president is immune from criminal prosecution while in office. Others say it depends on specific circumstances. But no serious legal expert believes federal agents can simply arrive with a warrant and arrest a sitting president for refusing a subpoena. That would trigger an enormous constitutional crisis. It would force the Department of Justice to take a formal position on presidential immunity. It would almost certainly end up before the Supreme Court. It would raise complex questions about executive authority, law enforcement power, and the role of the United States Secret Service. So even in the most extreme hypothetical scenario, Trump openly refusing a subpoena and prosecutors seeking contempt, the process of actually arresting him would be unprecedented, slow, and extraordinarily complicated. It would not happen quickly. It would not happen quietly. But YouTube creators ignore all of this because claiming Trump is being arrested right now drives views. So here's what we're doing today. We're going to explain how subpoenas actually work. We're going to examine Trump's real history of subpoena battles. We'll look at the Steve Bannon case to show how enforcement truly happens. We'll explain why you cannot simply arrest a sitting president for contempt. And we'll show you how to spot these fake arrest warrant videos so you stop falling for them, because this matters. Understanding how legal accountability really functions is far more important than believing in instant justice that doesn't exist. Let's get into it. First, the basics. A subpoena is a legal demand for testimony or documents. It is issued by a court, Congress, or a grand jury. It is not optional. Compliance is legally required. You may challenge a subpoena in court if it is invalid or overly broad. That is a legitimate legal step. You can file a motion to quash, and a judge decide the outcome. What you cannot do is simply ignore it. Ignoring a subpoena can lead contempt, but even contempt does not result in immediate arrest. Civil contempt is designed to compel compliance, not punish. Criminal contempt is punitive, but it requires a formal prosecution, a trial, or plea and sentencing. That process takes time. Now, Trump's history. During the Mueller investigation, Trump resisted subpoenas by asserting executive privilege. Courts became involved. Legal arguments were litigated. Some rulings went in his favor. Others did not. But the entire process played out through the courts, not through arrests. The 2020 Supreme Court case involving the Manhattan District Attorney is a critical piece of this story. Trump argued that he had absolute immunity from criminal subpoenas while serving as president. The Supreme Court rejected that claim, ruling clearly that presidents are not immune from subpoenas. But even after losing at the highest court in the country, Trump did not immediately comply. Instead, he continued litigating the scope of what had to be produced for years. Once again, no arrest, just prolonged legal process. During the January 6th investigations, Trump allies like Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro refused congressional subpoenas. Both were referred for criminal contempt. Both were prosecuted by the Department of Justice. Both were convicted. And both ultimately served time in prison. But in each case, the timeline from refusal to incarceration stretched well beyond a year. That is what subpoena enforcement looks like in reality. Slow, procedural, methodical, never instant arrest. Trump himself is fundamentally different. As a sitting president, he has constitutional protections that dramatically complicate enforcement. Most legal scholars agree that a sitting president cannot be criminally prosecuted. The constitutional remedy for defying Congress is impeachment, not arrest. That reality alone makes the arrest warrant narrative legally incoherent. And here's another key fact that exposes a fabrication. There is no evidence of any recent subpoena issued directly to Trump that he refused. None. The The viral videos are either inventing a subpoena entirely or misrepresenting subpoenas issued to agencies or officials in Trump's orbit. Then they stack a fake arrest warrant on top of that false premise. It's fiction built on fiction. So why does this narrative spread so easily? Because people crave immediate accountability. They're frustrated by how slow the legal system moves. They want to believe Trump is finally facing consequences right now. When a video promises an emotional payoff, it spreads, even when it's completely false. In today's media environment, feeling true often replaces being true, but real legal risks do exist. Trump's pattern of resisting subpoenas can be used as evidence in obstruction cases. Patterns matter in court. However, those consequences are long-term, subtle, and complex. They don't fit neatly into dramatic thumbnails or viral headlines. So creators ignore them and invent instant drama instead. So let's boil this down into clear takeaways. First, there is no arrest warrant for Trump for refusing a subpoena. That claim is false. If such a warrant existed, every legitimate news outlet on the planet would be covering it nonstop. Second, subpoena enforcement is slow and procedural. Even when it leads to prison, the process takes months or years. Third, as a sitting president, Trump has constitutional protections that make arrest for contempt extraordinarily unlikely. The remedy for defying Congress is impeachment, not handcuffs. Fourth, Trump's history of subpoena resistance does create real legal risks, but not instant ones. Fifth, always verify. Is there a court docket? A warrant number? Confirmation from major news organizations? If not, it's almost certainly fake. If you want to track Trump's real legal exposure, watch for contempt referrals, Department of Justice prosecution decisions, court rulings, compliance patterns, and impeachment discussions. That's where reality actually lives. Fake arrest warrant content thrives on frustration. It replaces understanding with fantasy. It doesn't help accountability. It undermines it. Trump may face consequences someday, or he may not. The legal system moves slowly, imperfectly, and unpredictably. But believing in fake victories only makes people cynical and disengaged when real developments occur. So demand better. Demand sources. Demand verification. Stop clicking on fake arrest warrant nonsense. Because real accountability is slow, boring, and difficult, but it's the only kind that actually matters.